Hello, Samson here. What if I told you that everything you knew about gardening was backward and somewhat out of date, but in the actual sense, not as much as you might think, but yes. And what if everything that you've been doing, breaking your back, digging, weeding, watering, wasn't just hard work, but it was actually hurting your garden? Well, today's book review is um, Nikolay Kurdyumov's Smart Gardening and Cunning Vegetable Garden. So it's a Russian authored book, Умный, Хитрый, огород, which is translated basically Smart Gardening and Cunning Vegetable Garden. So it is divided basically according to how I felt reading it into four major sections. So part 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then maybe the conclusion at the end. So the first one is actually the core philosophy that Kurdyumov wants to bring out. And his central idea in this philosophy, in this part 1, it simply focuses around simplicity. So he starts by saying that most of us have it all wrong, and the garden shouldn't be a boss or a chore. He writes, the garden should be a place of rest, and a harvest should be the product not so much of physical but of our mental labor. So he hits us with so much brutal assessment which we need to do, especially as organic growers. So in traditional gardening, mostly we have about 10% of our actions which are leading to about 30% of the results that we get, and then the remaining 60% is spent for the most part fighting those 30% results. How do you feel about that? Therefore, his solution to the struggle introduces the idea of cohabitation with your garden. So you need to be able to cohabit with your garden. So plants are not just your food slaves. They are a symbiont, where he asks a profound question that has to do with your plants are definitely trying to increase their freedom with your help. But are you increasing your help with theirs? Some question to think about. Diving right into part 2 of the book, he focuses on the big revolution, or revelation rather, that has to do with us stopping to dig. So the most practical and shocking advice is stop digging. Yes, your garden has not to go through a lot of digging, which is quite controversial because a lot of us think of, oh, I need to be able to plow and then plow, plant. But in practice, there is a lot of studies and experiments that have been conducted on different fields where people are practically dealing in no-till. And it is something actually that is working out a lot and giving us a lot of results in retrospect. So Kurdyumov explains that fertility isn't just created by your shovel or by your hoe, if in Africa, because most of us in Africa use the hoe, and it's supposed to be a tool of the museum, as it is said. So it's created by a universe of worms. The soil is created by a universe of worms, of microbes, and of the fungi in the soil. So when you dig, you're actually destroying the intricate cities where they live, and you'll not be able to get much from them because you're going to be dealing in a phenomenon known as a dead dough. So much as you might have dead dough, it's not going to raise no matter how much good conditions you have for everything. It's not going to raise. So he channels the 19th century agronomist Ivan Ovsinsky, so who proved that no-till farming actually quadruples your yields. And it is something I think that I've seen in practice as well, which is giving people a lot of results. So the real four conditions here have to do with constant moisture. There is need for your field to have constant moisture, and you cannot have constant moisture if you're consistently digging the ground, because you're losing moisture because of evaporation and other factors. The second thing that he refers to is you having enough air in the soil. So there is need for aeration in the soil. Thirdly, there is need to have soil temperatures which are right and optimal for seeds and for plants to be able to grow very well. And then lastly, we need carbon dioxide. So in order for you to get all this, you basically need to employ no digging, no till. So what is it that is going to replace that? Mulching. It is a phenomenon that he brings out, and then he says it's a blanket of organic matter, literally. So work is what you have to do if you haven't arranged for it to do itself. Work is what you have to do if you've not arranged for it to do itself. In part 3, he discusses the smart systems and tools which can be used in order to do up all of these processes. So what do you do instead? What tools do you use? You need to be able to build systems as a grower. So what this simply entails is you need to be able to have raised beds which are compost filled. So there is need to have those in order for you to be able to grow, because remember the 4 factors that we talked about: aeration, constant temperature, carbon dioxide, and moisture content. So your mulch is supposed to be heavy. So you need to be able to use organic matter like straw, leaves, cardboards, because it's organic and they're biodegradable. You can be able to employ them in there. And then weeding, you need to be able to utilize tools such as a flat cutter. It's called the plyuskarios in Russian. So which slices the weeds and doesn't disturb any structures of the soil. So if you plan wisely, it will be beautiful for you. So in part 4, he's discussing the understanding of your plants. So you need to be able to understand your plants. What is it that you're growing? You're growing tomatoes, you're growing cucumbers, you're growing flowers, are you growing different things in your garden? You need to be able to understand them. So my favorite actually section of the book, the chapter of the book where you need to be able to give your plants enough stress that is going to help them get to produce what you want. Also quoting Ivan Ovsinski again in line below, he talks about the fact that we need to think nature smiles at us with blossoms in spring. So we must know that the cause of this smile is pain. We cannot just have it like that. So times might get tougher. Plants need to be able to understand that, hence why we are going to be able to stress them so that they can bring that one out. In conclusion, the whole idea behind the book is simply a mindset shift that we're supposed to employ in our gardening and in our agriculture. I hope we could do this maybe on a larger scale, but if you're a smallholder farmer, a grower who's trying to just grow healthy food in order to feed your family, through a ripple effect, should be able to feed the globe as a whole. Kurdyumov's principles, I think, should be able to help us work around others. So never trust scientific recommendations that actually require for you to have an increase in labor costs, because you just increase in your labor costs and then not have any or so much yield to get at the end of the day. So this is Умный, Хитрый, Огород by Kurdyumov. Till we meet in the next segment, I am checking out.